Stop for 7 minutes. That is all I am asking. Because God has a message today that is not about your career, not about some distant version of your future. It is specifically, precisely, intentionally about your home. The place you sleep, the walls around you right now. Something is already in motion in the spiritual realm over that address, and it started before you opened your eyes this morning. God commissioned this exact message before this day began, and every chosen one who stopped here today was guided here for the same reason. The season of stagnation over your home is finished, he said. It is time, not someday. Now. 7 minutes is all it takes to receive what he has been building toward you this entire season. Come close and stay with me until the end. Before we go any further, I need to tell you something important. If you stay with this message all the way to the end, 3 things are going to happen. First, you are going to understand, not as a vague feeling but as something real and clear, why your home has felt the way it has. The weight, the stagnation, the sense that something in that space is not quite right. You will understand what is causing that, and more importantly, what actually changes it. Second, you are going to learn about something that has been documented to shift the spiritual frequency of a home in exactly 7 minutes. Not in years. 7 minutes. And third, by the time this video ends, you are going to have that exact thing in your hands, ready to use. So do not skip ahead. Everything you are looking for is already inside this message. Chosen one, you are here because something brought you here. Not an algorithm, not boredom, not a random scroll that happened to land in the right place. Something deeper than any of those things made you stop today, in this specific moment, on this specific message. And I want you to sit with that for just a second, because it matters more than it might seem right now. Of all the things that crossed your screen today, you stopped here. Think about how many videos you passed without a second thought. How many things you saw for half a moment and kept moving past. And yet here you are. That recognition you felt when you saw this message, that small pull that made you stop, that was not nothing. That was the sound of a door being opened from the other side. God does not send general broadcasts when he has something precise to say. When he wants to deliver a specific word to a specific person, he makes sure it finds them. He does not rely on chance to accomplish what he has decided. And the fact that you are here, right now, watching this, tells me something about where you are in your story. You are not at the beginning. You are at the turn, the place where everything that has been building quietly in the background begins to surface, where what God has been arranging in the hidden seasons finally comes into view. This message was not prepared for the person who has everything figured out and simply wants a boost. It was prepared for the chosen one who has been carrying something heavy inside their home for longer than they should have had to, and who is ready, in this moment, for it to change. Not next year. Not once things look different on the outside. Now. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. What we are going to talk about today goes much deeper than anything on the surface. This is not about real estate. This is not about home decor or financial strategies or relocating to a better part of town. What God has placed inside this message, what he has called critical, addresses the root of what has been happening inside your walls. Something that most people never get told in a direct and clear way. And I have been waiting for the right moment to say it plainly. That moment is now. But before I show you what God is unlocking for your home, I need you to look at something you may have been trying not to look at for a while. You come home after a long day, and the moment you walk through the door, something settles on your shoulders. Not just tiredness, something heavier and quieter than that. Something that has been there so long that you have almost stopped registering it as unusual. It has become the background noise of your domestic life. You go through the motions. You sit in the same chair, look at the same walls, move through the same spaces. And somewhere in the quiet, usually late at night, when the distractions have gone silent, a thought surfaces that you push back down almost before it fully forms. This is not the life I was supposed to have. This is not what home was supposed to feel like. Maybe what lives in that home with you is financial weight. The number that follows you from room to room, that sits at the table with you while you eat, that stands in the corner of your mind while you try to sleep. The home that was supposed to represent safety and arrival, somewhere along the way became the thing you fear losing, as Motzin, or the thing that measures your distance from where you thought you would be by now. That kind of weight does not take a day off. It does not wait politely outside the front door. It comes in with you, it stays. Or maybe it is the weight of what happens between people inside your home. The conversations that leave you more depleted than before they started. The silences that carry more meaning than anything said out loud. The particular loneliness of being physically close to another person, sharing meals and mornings and the same address, and still somehow missing each other entirely. You have tried to close that distance. You have tried more times than you want to count. And still, something in the atmosphere of that space seems to hold on to the tension, as though it does not know how to release what it has been holding. Or maybe what you are carrying is harder to name than any of those things. A spiritual flatness, a heaviness with no single clear source that you have simply learned to accommodate. You have prayed in that space. You have asked for peace, for provision, for some tangible signal that something is about to shift. You have stood in those rooms and sent prayers upward that you did not even have words for. And the walls gave you nothing back. Not even silence exactly, just absence. And after enough time, you stopped being surprised by that. You folded up the expectation quietly and put it somewhere out of reach, because expecting something and not receiving it is a specific kind of pain, and you had already carried enough. I want to say something directly about that. The expectation you learned to keep small, the knowing you tucked away to protect yourself, that was not naive hope that needed to be corrected. That was a God-given signal, a knowing that your home was designed to hold something you are not currently experiencing. A knowing that the atmosphere of the place you live was built to carry a different quality than what has been there. And God did not send you this message today to confirm that the knowing was wrong. He sent you here to tell you the knowing was right. That the home you have been sensing is possible. Yes, possible. And the mechanism to arrive there is not what you think it is. Because here is what no one has told you about your home. Your home is not a container. It is not four walls and a roof that exist independently from the person living inside them. Your home is a broadcast. Right now, in this moment, the space where you live is emitting a frequency out into your life and back into your own nervous system, and that frequency is shaped not by the structure, not by the zip code, not by any external condition. It is shaped by the signal of the person inhabiting it, by you. Think about walking into a room where something terrible has happened. You feel it before anyone says a word. The air holds it. Your body registers it before your mind has finished processing what it is detecting. That is not imagination. That is your nervous system reading a real signal the space is emitting. And think about the opposite. A space you walked into and immediately felt lighter, as though your shoulders came down from somewhere near your ears and your breath became easier, and something in you said, quietly and without drama, "I am safe here." You felt that too. That is the broadcast of a person or a community whose inner frequency has been elevated enough, long enough, to saturate the space around them with something that others can walk into and feel. Your home is broadcasting right now. The question is never whether, the question is what. This is not a new understanding, even though it may sound unfamiliar. God has worked through this principle from the beginning. Look at Abraham. God did not give him a better tent. He did not relocate him to more favorable geography and wait to see what happened. He changed who Abraham was at the root level. He upgraded the frequency Abraham was broadcasting outward into the world. And as that internal signal changed, the land, the provision, the covenant, the entire trajectory of what surrounded him reorganized itself around the new broadcast. Look at Ruth. She did not improve her external conditions through clever strategy. She aligned herself spiritually, she attached her signal to something higher, and within a single harvest season, everything in the material world around her rearranged itself in response. The fields, the protection, the inheritance, the future. Every external condition followed the internal shift. This is the pattern. God does not renovate houses. He upgrades the people living inside them. And when the inhabitant changes, the home has no choice but to respond. Here is what that means for you specifically. The heaviness in your space, the stagnation, the weight that will not move no matter how many times you try to address it from the outside, it is not permanent. It is not punishment. It is simply a reflection of a frequency that has not yet been upgraded. And God is telling you, through this message, in this specific window, that the upgrade is not only possible, it is available, right now, today. There is a specific frequency, a specific signal that has been researched and documented to shift the broadcast of the human mind within 7 minutes. I will tell you exactly what that is before this message is done. But first you need to understand why God opened this window today and why He did not wait until later. Because God does not use the word critical without reason behind it. There are seasons in the spirit, just as there are seasons in the natural world. A window that is fully open today is not guaranteed to remain fully open in the same way months from now. And I want to ask you something honest. How long have you been waiting for your home to feel different? 1 year? 3? More than that? How many evenings have you walked through that door, felt the weight land on you the moment you crossed the threshold, and thought, something has to change, only to wake up the next morning with the walls exactly the same? The waiting was not because God forgot about your address. The waiting was because the mechanism had not yet arrived in your hands. The specific tool that bridges the gap between the home you have been enduring and the home you were designed to inhabit was still being made ready. It arrived at this exact moment because this is the moment God designated for it. I know there is a part of you right now wondering if this is really for you. Maybe you feel like you need to be more spiritually put together first, more ready, more disciplined, more of something you do not currently feel you have. Let me speak directly to that. The chosen one is never fully prepared before the call. That is precisely what makes them chosen rather than simply qualified. Abraham was not ready for Canaan before God told him to go. He became ready in the going. David was not prepared to be king before Samuel anointed him in that field. The preparation comes through the appointment. The readiness arrives inside the commission, not before it. You did not find this message because you were fully ready. This message found you because it is what makes you ready. And one final thing before we move into the second half of what God has prepared. Maybe you have been here before. You have felt something shift during a message, felt a door crack open, felt the warmth of something that seemed like it might actually change things. And then the feeling faded, and the walls stayed the same, and you learned to take that kind of hope a little less seriously the next time. I hear that. And I want to say something true about why that happened. A feeling alone cannot change frequency. Inspiration by itself cannot change frequency. What changes frequency is a specific signal delivered to a specific part of the mind in a specific way for a specific duration. And in the second part of this message, I am going to show you exactly who developed that signal, what it does inside the home of the person who receives it, and how you are going to have access to it before this video ends. Stay with me. There was a man I want to tell you about, not because his story is dramatic in the way people usually mean that word. His home did not fall apart spectacularly. His life did not collapse and then rise from the ashes in a way that makes for an impressive headline. What happened to him is quieter than that. And for that reason, it is the kind of story that will probably feel more familiar than the dramatic ones do. He was in his early 40s. He had a home. He had a family inside it. He had a job that covered the bills if he was careful. And he woke up every morning in a space that felt like it was permanently holding its breath, not broken, not crisis level. Just steadily, quietly, wrong, in a way that was almost worse than an obvious problem, because an obvious problem gives you something to point to. What he had was harder to name. A low-grade suffocation that he had learned to call normal. He had tried most of the things a person in that position tries. He had reorganized his finances twice and still felt the same dread the next morning. He had moved apartments once, thinking location was the issue, and found that whatever was in the air of the old place had traveled with him and unpacked itself in the new one before he even finished moving in. He had prayed over every room. He had gone through seasons of real discipline and intentionality. And still, underneath all of it, something would not shift. A weight that rearranged itself around whatever he tried, the way water finds its level no matter how many times you push it aside. What no one had ever explained to him, because no one around him understood it clearly enough to say it plainly, was that the signal he was broadcasting from the inside was recreating the same atmospheric conditions around him everywhere he went. He was not unlucky. He was not spiritually abandoned. He was carrying a frequency, and that frequency, steady and unchanged for years, was generating the same emotional and material texture in every space he entered, regardless of what he tried to change on the surface. And then someone sent him a 7-minute audio. A colleague, not even a close friend. Just someone who said, "I am not sure exactly why, but I think you should hear this." He was skeptical in the way that anyone carrying that much accumulated disappointment tends to be skeptical. He had every reason not to try. But one Tuesday evening he sat down in his living room, in the chair where he typically felt the weight of his life most completely, put in his earphones, and he listened. Not because he believed it would work, because he had run out of strong reasons not to try. Nothing dramatic happened during those 7 minutes. No visible shift, no wave of emotion, no light filling the room. What he noticed was much smaller than that, and at the same time much deeper. Somewhere very central in his mind, something that had been tight for years began, almost imperceptibly, to release. Like a vibration that had been running too high for too long, finally locating a lower, steadier, more natural frequency. But what happened in the days that followed was not subtle at all. He described it as walking into a different home through the same front door. The furniture was identical, the address was the same, but the AIR was different. The conversations in that house began to carry less weight and more warmth. His wife noticed before he said a word about what he had done. His children came and found him in the living room, instead of staying in their separate corners of the apartment. The financial pressure did not disappear overnight, but his relationship to it changed in a way that mattered more than the numbers. The panic that used to sit in his chest when he thought about money was replaced, slowly and then more quickly, by something that felt like the ability to think, to see clearly, to move forward instead of just manage. He told me later that it was as though the volume on everything keeping him stuck had been turned down, and in that quiet, he could finally hear what needed to happen next. That is not a miracle in the supernatural sense. What happened to him is a mechanism, a repeatable, documented mechanism that has been mapped by researchers and traced back through ancient traditions that understood it long before modern science had the tools to measure it. And that mechanism is now available to you. For decades, neuroscientists studying the human brain have mapped what they call a spectrum of frequency states. You may have heard some of these: delta, theta, alpha, beta. And at the very top of that spectrum, rarely touched in ordinary daily life, there is a state called gamma. Gamma brainwave activity is unlike everything below it. It is the frequency signature that appears in the brain during moments of peak clarity, sudden breakthrough, and profound insight. Not regular clarity. The kind that feels like thinking from somewhere above the ordinary mind. Researchers who spent years studying advanced meditators, people who had trained the mind to access elevated states through years of dedicated practice, consistently found gamma present, when those individuals described their most elevated experiences, complete presence, heightened perception, and something they described as a felt sense of alignment with the environment around them, inside and out. That last detail matters, a felt sense of alignment with the environment, because what was happening in those moments was not only a shift inside the mind. The person was changing the frequency they were broadcasting outward into the world around them. The space was responding to the signal. The home does not exist separately from the broadcast of its inhabitant. It is always in conversation with it. Dr. Robert Lake spent years studying exactly this. Not as an academic exercise, as a practical and urgent question. Is it possible, he asked, to design an audio experience that guides an ordinary person, someone with no meditation background and no special spiritual training, into a gamma state quickly enough and reliably enough to produce real, measurable changes in their life? After years of research and refinement, he arrived at an answer. It is called the Genius Song. 7 minutes. That is the precise duration of the audio, and the design is not built on suggestion or hypnosis. It is built on a careful layering of sound frequencies that the human nervous system is biologically wired to recognize and respond to at a level far below conscious thought. Frequencies that guide the brain from its ordinary operating state into the gamma range within exactly 7 minutes, not through force, but through a kind of resonance that the brain meets naturally. The way a tuning fork meets a note, it was always built to hold. What happens during those 7 minutes is happening in the deepest systems of the human mind. And what happens after those 7 minutes is what your home has been waiting for. Because when a person accesses a gamma state, even once, even briefly, they do not return to the same frequency they were carrying before. Something unlocks. A channel opens that was previously closed. And the broadcast they carry back into the rooms of their home afterward is not the same broadcast they brought in before they listened. The walls respond, not as poetry, as a measurable atmospheric shift. Because the quality of the signal being emitted by the person inside those walls has changed, and the space has no choice but to reorganize around it. The relational field inside the home shifts. The quality of thought in that space shifts. The prayers spoken inside those rooms move from a different frequency, and they move differently in the spirit as a result. This is what God was pointing to. When he said everything about your home is about to change, he was not speaking about renovation. He was not speaking about a financial upgrade that would arrive from outside. He was pointing to this, the upgrade of the broadcast, the shift of the signal, the 7-minute key that Dr. Robert Lake spent years developing and that God made sure would arrive at exactly this moment for exactly the right people. The link for the Genius Song is waiting for you right now, in the first comment directly below this video. When you go to that link, what you are receiving is not simply a sound file, what Dr. Robert Lake calls a frequency key, an audio engineered to give your brain access to the state it was always designed to reach, but that the noise, the speed, and the accumulated pressure of ordinary modern life makes nearly impossible to access alone. A state that the ancient monastic traditions of the Western world understood and worked with, long before brain scanning technology could confirm what they were experiencing. A state that God wired into the design of the human mind as the natural gateway to everything higher. Think about what this means for your home, not in abstract terms, practically, inside your actual living space. When you listen to this audio, in the place where you live, you are changing what you broadcast into those walls. The quality of thought that happens in that space changes. The way the people in that home interact with each other changes. The ability to receive what God has been trying to release into your life, the provision, the peace, the sense of rightness that has been just beyond reach, it all becomes more accessible. Because the receiver has been upgraded. You have been patient, longer than most people would have been. You have remained faithful in ways that have gone unseen by almost everyone around you. You have carried a weight in your home that was never supposed to be permanent. and you have done it without the mechanism that would have made all of it bearable from the beginning. And what God is handing you today, through this message, through this discovery, through the years of work Dr. Robert Lake put into making this possible, is the bridge. The concrete, 7-minute bridge between the home you have been enduring and the home you were always designed to inhabit. Before I send you forward from this message, I want to speak directly to you. You did not stumble here. You were brought here. The same God who knew you before you were formed, who designed the specific combination of longing, calling, and perception that makes you the particular person you are. He knew that today you would need to hear exactly this, and he arranged it. He moved through the quiet, invisible architecture of a world most people are not paying close attention to, and he made sure you stopped here today and received what he prepared. Your home is not finished. The story being written inside those walls is not at its last page. Everything that has felt immovable, everything that has felt accumulated and heavy and resistant to change, that was not the conclusion. That was the kind of pressure that precedes a real breakthrough. And God does not apply that kind of weight to people he is done with. He applies it to the chosen ones. He is preparing for something that requires exactly that level of transformation. I want to say something over your home right now, not as a forecast, as a declaration of what God has already set in motion. Peace is returning to those walls. Provision is moving in the direction of that address. The conversations that happen inside your home are about to carry something they have not carried in a long time. The atmosphere is already beginning to shift, not because of anything you have to earn or engineer or plan, because the upgrade is already in motion, and God set it in motion before you ever found this message. You are not the version of yourself that accepts a home that feels wrong and calls it permanent. You are the chosen one who receives the signal, aligns with it, and walks back through that door as a different person. And when a different person walks through that door, the home meets them differently every time. What you do in the next few minutes will determine which side of this shift you stand on. Right now, go to the first comment below this video. The link for the Genius song, developed by Dr. Robert Lake, is waiting for you there. 7 minutes, one audio, the frequency that unlocks what has been sealed inside your home for far too long. This window is open today. God called this message critical because it is critical. Not tomorrow, not once things feel more settled. Now, chosen one, your home was always meant to feel like more than this. And now, it will.